Hello, I'm the Rebel Ghola. Let's talk about Doom, E1M1, and finding comfort through speed. In 1993, a famed cat murderer, a class clown, a tortured artist, and a man who knows how to run from glory released Doom. I was 9 when id Software released Doom, and I was already what kids today would call a hardcore gamer. It wasn't until 1994, when I was approaching 10 years old, that I actually played the first episode of Doom, knee deep in the dead. You see, I didn't own a PC, I was a console kid. Specifically, I was a Sega kid, and an arcade junkie. In the upside down land, we called them spaceys. In the winter holidays, my family would make the 4-hour drive to the city to visit my mum's boyfriend's sister. We were encouraged to call her auntie, but I never liked her. It was here, in the upside down winter of 1994, that I learned 2 life-changing facts. The first will surprise nobody to learn that young boomers were more precious and sensitive than their despised parents. To a child of a boomer's parent, aka a grandparent, was quiet, kindly, and ancient, like a Galapagos tortoise. They moved and spoke infrequently, but when they did, it was glorious and momentous, despite the lies boomers speak today. Lies spoken in a self-loathing that comes easily to their generation. Lies that they can speak without challenge now that most of the Galapagos tortoises are long extinct. There is a truth that my generation knows and holds dear. I now pass this truth on to you. You must understand it, but never speak it. Boomers despised their parents and craved their approval above all else. I tell you this secret, both for the personal gratification of knowing that it will live on, but more specifically, so you understand how much trouble I was in when I insisted on calling my mum's boyfriend's sister by her first name, rather than the titular auntie that had been ordained. Now this might have passed as a minor offence expected from such a horrible and disrespectful child that I was, but what turned my crime from a misdemeanor to a felony was the unbelievable and shocking chortle from my mum's boyfriend's father. Auntie would not stand to be disrespected by her father so publicly, and I was banished to the loft for the day. It was in the loft that I discovered my mum's boyfriend's sister's boyfriend had a PC. Turning it on, I found video games. Lots of video games. Wolfenstein 3D, Myst 3D, and Doom 3D to be specific. It was here that I learned the second life-changing fact. Doom ruled. Doom ruled because it was fast. Doom ruled because it was gory. And Doom ruled because it was funny. On that cold winter day, I learned that Doom's rule over all other video games was indisputable, objectively pure, and mathematically provable. In 1994, Doom was faster than any other first-person shooter. In fact, we didn't even call first-person shooters first-person shooters. We just called them games, or 3D games. Before Doom, if you wanted speed, your options were side-scrolling shooters like R-Type, or side-scrolling platformers like Mario Brothers. We called both types of video games games, or video games. Please don't judge us, we were still figuring out everything as we went. In comparison to Myst, Doom was like waxing your body hairless and going headlong down a slip and slide. The exhilaration of the world passing you by in a blur, merging with a near erotic sense of absolute control. Doom wasn't the only fast game out there, but while R-Type had Geiger-esque aliens and Mario had colour, Doom had gore. Doom had Predator gore. Doom had Rambo gore. Doom was the fever dream of a child raised on 80s action flicks and domestic violence. Doom was watching a Belgian ballet dancer intentionally and irreversibly stretch his groin between coconut trees before attempting to avenge his brother's legs against Tong fucking Po. And like all good 80s action stars in the early 90s, Doom was funny. The first time I shot an oil drum and watched the zombie man scatter themselves across the room, I laughed. And I alerted my prison guards to my crime. I was in serious trouble. Apparently mucking around with my mum's boyfriend's sister's boyfriend's PC was a crime most heinous. I was lucky I hadn't broken it. Hadn't I seen that movie with the kid that starts World War III? The truth is, it didn't matter. On that day, I learned that Doom rules, crime pays, and speed equals fun. 29 years later, and I still play Doom. I never played religiously, nor did I get into the WOD scene or deathmatch. But most PCs I owned over the years would have a copy of Doom loaded for when the itch needed scratching. Over time though, I began to notice that the imperative to run through Doom usually meant I was getting anxious over something. Doom became more than just a video game to me. Doom was a resource. Doom was a tool. I didn't play Doom. I used Doom. I used Doom to transport myself into a problem-solving, meditative state. The natural ebbs and flows of Doom, from search to destroy, were one part of it. Doom is not a complicated game. You search for keys and destroy enemies. The Doom gaming loop of search and destroy breaks down further with anticipated ease as you destroy enemies and search for items to aid you on your meta quest. But it was more than that too. Lots of games have simple and well-designed game mechanics. Speed. Comes back to speed. Doom's speed and level design encourages aggression. Never pausing, never timidly checking the next room, moving seamlessly from search to destroy. A silky smooth flow state. So what better way to review Doom than to speedrun every single mission of Knee Deep in the Dead? Prior to this review, my only interaction with speedrunning was binging every Summoning Salt creation with gusto. The first decision I needed to make was, which Doom? There is a tired old joke about things running Doom that I won't repeat, but all of a sudden it was an important question for me. Doom 1993 on DOS is still a great game, but in the years since then a variety of ports have been created. I'm not going to go through every official Doom port or every unofficial Doom port, but needless to say, most of them are awful in one way or another. Some, like Doom 64, are really distinct games rather than strictly being ports. Others, like Doom PS1, were super fun in their day and notable for its darker themes. The rest are mostly arse. That left me with a few very good unofficial options. GZ Doom offers everything you would ever want, and a few things you probably don't. Chocolate Doom gives you an authentic experience on modern PCs. Crispy Doom makes Chocolate Doom pretty. Doom Unity is the latest official port and gives a mostly authentic experience with modern textures and a few modern conveniences. In the end, I chose Doom Unity for 3 very good reasons. Or maybe they're terrible. You be the judge. 1, because I already owned it. 2, because I'm poor. And 3, mostly I'm just lazy and didn't want to learn how to do the other ones. With that decision made, I headed over to speedrun.com and created an account and read the rules. DuncanIdahosGhola, righto. Links in the comments for the untrusting. My first runs were on the Xbox One with a controller for the said reasons relating to the deadly sins of sloth and poverty. I quickly realised that I was never going to achieve greatness limited by a controller, and so I picked up a copy of Doom Unity on GOG for a couple of bucks. The Rebel Ghola ate canned tuna for dinner that night. Finally, I needed the best strats and to check out my competition. Speedrunning Doom seemed to come down to a few essentials. Step 1, be really bloody good at Doom. Step 2, SR50 or strafe running and jumps. In Doom, combining forward motion and diagonal motion results in a faster movement speed than just moving forward alone. The downside is that you're moving in diagonal and it can be tricky to navigate. SR50 becomes critical not just for the speed boost, but also for the jumping advantage it offers. Step 3, momentum. Doom Guy is special in lots of ways, but he still obeys some of the natural physical laws as you and I. The important one is momentum. Doom Guy takes a second to reach full speed, and hitting obstacles will slow him down. The delay in door openings after activation offers an opportunity to retreat back a few steps and take a run at the now open door with full momentum. SR50 is also critical here as the extra speed combined with the momentum physics provide the opportunity to jump in a game with no jump button. Step 4, randomness. At the highest levels, random events can kill a speedrun. Enemies blocking a path is common and bloody frustrating. The most famous of these being Carl from E1M1. Say hi, Carl, you dickhead. The current world record for Knee Deep in the Dead is held by Thomas TD at 4 minutes, 38 seconds and 667 milliseconds. Outstanding. I clearly had my work cut out for me. As an introduction to Doom, E1M1 is a masterclass and so deserves extra attention. The level design of E1M1 introduces you immediately to both the technological innovations of Doom and the game mechanics to be found within. In the very first scene, you are introduced to a wave of textures, colours and lighting that I had in 1994 never seen before. Gunmetal grey hexagonal floors, water features with pillars, computers stacked high, light streaming through an open window, heavy metal, and danger. I played the game on the second hardest difficulty, hurt me plenty, and so this first room is devoid of enemies. Doom gives me this one place of safety, and yet my feelings of unease were very real. Looking out the window I can see a courtyard with a blue vest. To the immediate left of my starting position I can see a door. Going through the door reveals a strange room with 2 computer cabinets either side of a stairway leading to a green vest. In 1994, on that winter's day, I had no idea what the vest did, but I knew it was helpful and picked it up, leaving the room immediately. I was unaware I missed a secret. Returning to the starting room, I saw another door and approached it. It didn't open. I pressed the space bar, which I correctly intuited was the use button. The door opens and I'm greeted by futuristic red lights and 2 armed men standing on a raised platform. The armed men make a funny sound and turn towards me. I'm threatened, and so I shoot them. Pushing forward, I see a long, twisting corridor. The shape of the corridor prevents me from seeing what is around the corner. I push the Doom guy forward with overconfidence. The curve hides a zombie man, and we find ourselves upon each other in close combat, guns blazing. The frenzy sharpens my mind, and I intuitively position myself to dodge the unseen imp missile incoming as I shoot at the second zombie man partway across the zigzag acid-lined pathway. With my enemies dispatched, I go through another door and come face to face with an imp I would later know as Carl. I did say Carl as dick, right? In front of me, beckoning like the sun, is a yellow door labelled Exit. I use the door, take the spoils in the room, and press the switch to descend to the next level. My score tells me that I killed most of the enemies, but I missed all the secrets. This game has secrets. E1M1 is easily the most popular level to speedrun and is fiercely competitive. It is also short and so offers a brilliant introduction, not just on level design, but on Doom's speedrunning fundamentals. At anything bar world record levels, the strategy is simple. Run or strafe run to the first door, open it, back up and run through the now open door with full momentum. The next room is all about strafe running past enemies in the zigzag room. Approaching the room as close to the right hallway as possible so that I enter the zigzag room to the right of the zombie man. I strafe run through the zigzag room and open the door. Back up and run through the open door with full momentum. If Carl is being a dick and randomly moves in the wrong direction, the run is over. If I successfully pass Carl, I open the exit door, back up, and run through and press the switch. Easy peasy pudding and pie. Collect a sub 10-second run. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. Wow. Repeat. Over and over and over and over. Until I get a speed I'm content with. Or at least get one that is good enough for me to lie to others about having a speed I'm content with. Menali holds the most illustrious record of E1M1 at 8.660 seconds. At 9.83 seconds, I, for one, am content with my speed and so move on to E1M2. E1M2 builds upon the same design mechanics as E1M1 and introduces me to coloured keys and the then impressive vertical level designs possible with Doom. Speedrunning E1M2 is mostly straightforward, with long sections to build momentum with strafe running. The major points of frustration is getting past the final 2 zombie men in front of the exit. The technique, which I struggle to master, is to open the door to the final room with the top right corner. Doing this exactly will result in the zombie man in the left of the final room staying asleep, and therefore gives a straight run for the exit. The more time-consuming alternative is to shoot the zombie man. The top run is held by Depravity at 19.09 seconds. It is a name that will come up again. My own run clocked in at 25.29 seconds and is 83rd at the time of recording. If E1M1 and E1M2 were masterclasses in game tutorial design, then E1M3 is the journeyman. The level offers only a consolidation of lessons learned, with some pretty scenery along the way. Speedrunning E1M3 gives me my first frustrating taste of random dumb luck. If I leave the first zombie man alive, then there is an outside chance that it will activate the door opening on your return trip and save you a few seconds. Other than this, the level offers a little else. The world record is held by Thomas TD at 31.460 seconds. My own best attempt sits at 40.60 seconds, leaving me just hugging the 50th position. Non-orthogonal walls are used with childlike joy by John Romero in E1M4. The result is the first sprawling maze-like map designed to befuddle and confuse. The map shows off the more varied levels that are possible with the Doom engine, but speedrunning E1M4 is an uncomplicated affair except for the final decision. The slower and safer route is to jump onto the small ledge in the nukage pool room and press the switch to raise the bridge in the end room. The faster and riskier option is to enter straight into the computer room and attempt to strafe run glide across the unraised bridge. Depravity holds the world record for E1M4 with a slick 11.46 seconds. I managed to stick the landing on the bridge glide, and my own record of 14.2 seconds puts me in the 29th position at the time of recording. In the winter of 1994, E1M5 was the first level I failed to complete without dying. The very first room requires crossing a nukage pool and thereby taking mandatory damage. The actual damage taken is minute, but the sense of absolute fucking bullshit sits in my stomach like a rock to this day. In retrospect, I really enjoyed the design of E1M5. The multiple levels give the player a sense of expansiveness and substantiality. It feels like a real place. Which actually is even more impressive when I think about how completely impractical it would be to have to traverse a secret bridge over a radioactive nukage pit just to move from the lab room to the cafeteria. I finished my speedrunning attempts of E1M5 with strong dissatisfaction. The success or otherwise of the run depends a lot on whether I can reach the elevator on the return journey from the nukage pool switch before it returns to its starting position. If I could achieve this, which shouldn't be a problem for a skilled player, but is a major obstacle for a bushwhacker lacking opposable thumbs, then I should be golden, unless one of those goddamn pinkies decide to block the door and end my run. The room's final flickering lights mess me up too. What can I say? The current world record is held by Thomas TD at 38.86 seconds. My best attempt is 50.57 seconds, putting me at 33rd position. E1M6 is a level of traps, tricks and mazes. From the very beginning, E1M6 offers multiple branching paths, fraught with danger. Turning right takes me to a large barrel-filled room with an unguarded red key. On my first playthrough, I don't even notice that the entranceway has been closed off with a mundane looking wall, trapping me in a room with no apparent exit. I pick up the red key and all hell breaks loose. Overwhelmed by enemies everywhere, my first instinct is to look for the exit. Confusion sets in as I scramble for the doorway that doesn't exist. More enemies appear and barrels start exploding. This is where beauty is found in Doom. The flow state. Rip and tear. Speedrunning E1M6 gives you the exact opposite sensation. The trap doorway can be tricked into staying open if I lure a zombie man to stand directly under it when the trap is triggered. The setup takes time and turns E1M6 into a perverted escort mission. The confusing maze sections are trivialized by repetition and optimization. I am finally left with random encounters to block my path. The world record is held by Thomas TD at 48.97 seconds. My best record was 1 minute, 28 seconds and 17 microseconds. Honestly, I could do better with time, but there is no way I'm willing to dedicate time to this hell. One of the largest and most interesting maps in Knee Deep in the Dead is E1M7, Computer Station. A sprawling, complicated map full of areas visible but seemingly unattainable. Speedrunning E1M7 is mostly trick-free. It asks only that I take the most direct path to each key and door. Fast times in E1M7 is about skill. Skill is something I lack. And so, it was with great repetition that E1M7 gradually corrected a number of glaring gaps in my doomed speedrunning repertoire. The first elevator speed can be greatly enhanced by using the forced wait time to kill all the zombie men and imps. I initially did not understand why skilled runners killed the imps on the ground until I collided with one after trying to jump down the ledge over its head. Doom 3D is sometimes referred to as 2.5D or even 2D with tricks. This is a result of Doom's inconsistent use of the XYZ axis. The Z axis is used for projectile collision calculation, but not enemy collision calculation. This is what stops cacodemons flying overhead, or, in this case, stops me from jumping over an imp. The lack of collision detection is likely a result of a lack of time and the need to ship the game on time. And yes, we 90s hardcore gamers derided the industry for shipping unplayable, glitched messes even back then. In the case of Doom, the strange collision detection has become one of the charms of the game, but I digress. After the elevator, the only other point of interest is the lowered column in the room at the top of the stairway, which can be used to jump over the ledge into the nukage pit. It is slightly faster than using the passageway. The world record is held by Thomas TD at 58.23 seconds. I gave up at 1 minute, 14 seconds and 94 microseconds. We then come to the final mission. All things end as they begin, and this is true of Doom. Just as E1M1 begins with my unease, E1M8 ends in like fashion. The door opens to a room of pinkies filled with barrels. Shooting the barrels usually kills all the pinkies. The corridor then leads to 2 empty rooms filled with ammo, and a very long empty corridor with an elevator. Ascending the elevator takes me to a large room. Welcome to the court of the Barons of Hell. After bloody chaos and violence, I defeat the Barons of Hell. The room walls descend and eventually lead to a portal to Deimos. I enter the portal, assume safety awaits. I am wrong. It is Hell's turn, and they take their pound of flesh and my life. The credits roll. There are 2 ways to speedrun E1M8. The easy way is to use the chain gun or rocket launchers to kill the Barons quickly and then strafe run jump to the portal platform. The jump itself takes a bit of practice and you only get 1 chance. Missing it adds roughly 10 seconds to the run, waiting for the staircase to rise. Entering the run with as little health as possible will also quicken the run considerably. The fastest way to complete the level is to void glide. By and large, John Carmack created a remarkably stable game with very few opportunities for level clipping. In Doom speedrunning, glitching out of bounds is called void gliding and is not commonly used. Void gliding requires a lot of experience, luck, and a unique combination of factors. Void gliding also leads to ghosting and comes with an important penalty: an inability to interact with things. This penalty doesn't matter in E1E8 as the level ends with death after venturing forth through the Deimos portal. I tried the void glide for a number of hours before concluding I lacked the requisites, and could spend weeks practicing without any signs of success. The speedrun leaderboard has a clear line of demarcation between players that can void glide and those that cannot. The world record is held by Depravity at 18.51 seconds. My own run used the chain gun and ledge jump and is currently in the 10th spot at 50.310 seconds. If I perfected the run, I could potentially improve by a few seconds, which at best would put me in the 8th position. I spent the 4-hour road trip home as an outcast in the canopied flat deck of my mum's boyfriend's ute. It was supposed to give me time to think, but the whole time I had the iconic E1M1 track at Doom's Gate running through my mind on repeat. With no PC at home until my teenage years, my gaming focus would turn to Alex Kidd, Sonic and Mortal Kombat. But that one rainy day at my mum's boyfriend's sister's boyfriend's house had given me indispensable knowledge. I could now confidently correct anyone that expressed passing admiration for either Wolfenstein or Myst that, actually,
Doom rules.
In 1994, video games were a fringe hobby at best. Truthfully, it wasn't quite that you would keep it a secret as such, but you certainly wouldn't advertise the fact that you were a gamer. Doom did not change public perceptions of gamers. That damage had already been done. But Doom did change gamers' perception of the public. The years between Doom and approximately the PS2 era saw a growing cognitive dissonance in gamer in-group behaviours. On the one hand, designers like Romero taught us with Doom that video games as an art form were flourishing. But our confidence in gaming as a legitimate hobby grew in lockstep with a lack of self-esteem that came with the awareness that the public thought that something was wrong with our gaming subcultures. It didn't help that, like any new artistic movement, most conversations between gamers devolved into gatekeeping over what it all meant. These conversations, mixed with the youthful confusion of teenagers raised on MTV and littered with faux confidence, were really productive and often gross. In 1998, at the age of 14, I would gain the courage to abandon my home and strike out on my own. The first 6 months were spent in perpetual confusion, couch surfing in the homes of creeps, kind souls, and the permanently checked out. At some point I found myself in what Americans would call a trailer home, with a revolving cast of up to a dozen other teenagers. We, not so creatively, referred to ourselves as the Lost Boys. In hindsight, the name was apt, as I was desperately confused and lost. We took in a new kid. I have no idea how or why, but he had a computer with a monitor and everything. I loaned him a copy of The Wheel of Time, Book 1, and he offered to let me play with his computer. I remember him mentioning, half embarrassed, that the computer is really old and can't play new games. Turning on the PC, he asked, "Have you played Doom?" Never pausing, never timidly waiting when action is required. Moving seamlessly from assess to decide, a silky smooth flow state. Clarity.